All right, we are at lesson 3, where you will complete the quest by remixing the Animal Parade project from the Tippensee, and you will start planning your own unique dance party project in Scratch. First, let's do a quick review on loops. This is on page 52 in your workbooks if you want to follow along. Let's look at a couple scripts. In the first script, how many times will the buzz sound play? Correct. The buzz sound will repeat 6 times. In the second script, how many times will the hiss sound play? Correct. The hiss sound will repeat 4 times. Will the pop sound repeat? You're correct again. It will not, because it's outside of the repeat loop, so it will only play 1 time. In order for the pop sound to be repeated, it must be inside the loop block or the dinosaur's mouth. Which 2 of these partial scripts will do the same actions? Take a minute and look at them. Correct. The answer is the first and the third scripts will do the same actions. Both of these scripts make a boing sound and change size by 10 4 times, repeated. In the first script, the repeat loop will repeat these 2 actions 3 times, and then outside the repeat loop, these actions happen once for a total of 4 times. In the third script, we have all of the blocks listed out that do repeat 4 times. Take a look at this partial script. Can I have a volunteer to explain what happens in the script? Teachers, this is really good practice for the students to articulate what's happening in the script. The correct answer will be the sprite will go to the X0, Y0 position. The sprite will say, "I'm hungry" for 2 seconds. Then the sprite will repeat the following actions 4 times. Move 10 steps, play sound chomp, and change size by 10. Then the sprite will say, "Now I'm full" for 2 seconds, only 1 time. One last review task, which is not in your workbooks. In which of these scripts will you notice the bee change direction and why? Yes, in script B, because there are weight blocks in between each of the turn degrees blocks. In script A, the weight blocks are after the turn blocks, so the turn blocks will happen too fast to notice the bee turning direction. Now it's time for the quest. You can either click or type in the bit.ly in your web browser, sign into Scratch, or you can sign in first and then click or type the link. Each time you work on a modify project, which is part of the quest, you will need to roar and hiss to save it to your account and to our class studio. Teachers, let students know the name of the studio ahead of time. If you create a new project and start with a blank canvas, you don't need to roar, but you still need to hiss so that you can share and save to the class studio. We've done roar and hiss before, but let's review it. Teachers, you can also show this video to your students if you prefer. Roar and hiss stands for reload, remix, share, and add to studio. First, roar like a lion. You click the reload arrow in your browser window. When you're exploring projects, sometimes you may make changes to the code just to play around and learn how it works. When you reload a project in your browser window, it returns the code to the original version. Then you'll click the Remix button in the Scratch project in order to create a copy of the project onto your Scratch account. Now, hiss like a snake. Click the Share button so that others, including your teacher, can see the project. And finally, when you're on the project page, click the Add to Studio button and select the studio that your teacher has set up for this lesson. Great! Now you're ready to modify the project. In the quest, you're going to create scripts for the kangaroo, the grasshopper, and the bee sprites to make them move across the stage by using the following blocks in a repeat loop block. Move step, next costume, and wait seconds. You will also have the grasshopper make a sound as it moves using the play sound block. You will also need an event block to start the scripts. In this project, the When Green Flag Clicked event is used with a script to reset the sprites to their original position. So, to create your scripts, you could use a When This Sprite Clicked event block or a When Key Pressed event block. You will need to figure out how many times you need to repeat the sequence of actions in order for the sprites to reach the other side of the stage. When you first build the scripts, estimate the number of repeat times that the sequence, then run the project to test it. When you see how far the sprite moves, you can either increase or decrease the number of repeats based on if the sprite moved fully across the stage or moved too far across the stage. For the grasshopper to move or hop across the screen, which means he'd be moving up and down as he moves forward. If you only use the move steps block in the loop, it will just move horizontally forward. To make it hop up and down while moving forward, you would use the change Y by block. With your students, you could relate this to the coordinate plane in math, and that if a sprite moves upwards on the stage, it's like moving upwards on the y-axis. If it moves downwards on the stage, it's like moving downwards on the y-axis. Moving forwards or backwards on the stage is like moving to the right or to the left on the x-axis. So to make the grasshopper hop up and down, for up, you're going to add a positive number in the change Y by block. To move back down, you'll add the same number in the change Y by block, but make it a negative number. Remember to include a wait block in between the two change Y by blocks so you're able to see the action of the grasshopper sprite moving up and then moving back down. If you don't include the wait block, The sprite will move so fast that you will not see the movement of up and down. Also remember to add the move steps block to make the sprite move forward. So you will have 2 change Y by blocks, 2 wait blocks, and 1 move step blocks in the loop for the grasshopper. On the quest pages, remember the 2 columns. It's coded and it works. This reminds you to create and test your code by clicking the green flag and running the program to make sure it works as expected. Once it works, you can add a check mark to both of these columns. Once you finish the quest, there are 2 reflection questions to answer. Describe any bug that you or a friend had, and what did you learn from the bug? Your students can describe what happened, what they wanted to happen, what didn't happen, and then reflect on what they learned from the bug so that they can use it in future projects. It's great to use these questions in a full class conversation. We're teaching coding and we want students to know that it's okay if things do not work the first time. And just having them become comfortable with making mistakes, finding them, and fixing them. That's one of the aims of the curriculum. If you finish early, there are a couple of extension activities you can add to your project. You can add a new sprite with more than one costume and have it move across the stage using a loop. Or you can add code to make the bee fly up and down while moving across the screen. Now it's time for you to work on this project on your own. It's important as teachers that you do these quests yourself so that you understand any challenges that your students might have as you teach the curriculum. When you've completed your own project as a teacher, you can add it to your class studio for this lesson and use it as a demonstration project when you teach this lesson.